how. So, Samuel Matete, today is the 30th anniversary of Michael Powell's leap into history. The first man to break Bob Beamon's record legitimately, and the longest lasting long jump record. It's 30 years today. Nobody else has even come close to it. Jesse Owens just passed 25 years with his record. Michael Powell's is 30 years today. Just how good a record is Powell's record?
First of all, it is very, very good. And, you know, fortunate enough, I happened to be there when Mike Powell set the world record. And that was in Tokyo in 1991. So when I was winning by 400-meter hurdles, he was setting the world record in long jump. So if you look at, I think, well, it is a fact that records are made to be broken. And I know for sure that at some point it will go. But it's not just going to go like that. It's going to take quite a lot to jump beyond 895 meters. So it's going to take some time because when he said it, it's taken almost 30 years, you know, and it's still standing. So you can see how tough the record is. Because even when you look at the world record, 8 meters 90 centimeters, no one has broken it beside, I think, beside Mike Powell. So that record is still standing today. So before we start talking about breaking Mike Powell's record, we should also talk about breaking Bob Beamon's record of 8 meters 90. I believe Carl Lewis got closer to that, but I have to look back. I have to go in the records to see Carl Lewis's best jump, because he was another great athlete who could have broken it.
You mentioned the great Bob Beamon. He didn't just break the world record. There had been, since Jesse Owens's record was broken in 1960, there were small increases. Several times the record changed hands. I believe an American broke the record. A teammate of Bob Beamon broke the record 5 times by small amounts until Beamon absolutely destroyed it by 55 centimeters. It wasn't just breaking the world record, it was absolutely destroying it. That's why it was said to be such a great record, it may never be broken. But Mike Powell did. And he didn't just break Beamon's record, he set a new record, not just the long jump record, but the longevity of the long jump record. Up to him, only Jesse Owens had held the record for over 25 years. But now Powell's record has lasted 30. How much longer can it last?
Well, you know, when Kevin Young broke the world record in 1992 with the 400-meter hurdles, you know, he pushed it so far away that it was almost unreachable for the next generation that came. And that generation passed. No one came close to it. Because the world record set by Kevin Young was set in my generation. The next generation didn't even come close to that. And it took many years. But you know, just like I said earlier, you know, records are meant to be broken. No one knew that Kirsten Warholm can come back today and break the record twice, as hard as it was, but it broke it twice. So it also goes to the long jump. Yes, it is a fact that Mike Powell has really pushed the record far away. It's almost unreachable, but it would just take a generation and it will go. It may take quite a long time, but it will go. It may not be even in this generation, may not be next generation, but it will go at some point, because we are living in a world where technology is changing each and every day. And God knows, what will happen in the next generation or the other generation. Definitely, it's one of the record. That was
The athlete who broke Jesse Owens's long jump record is Ralph Boston. He set 5 long jump world records in his time before he was written out of history, so to speak, by the magnificent leap by Bob Beamon. I noticed in the long jump, where the event where Powell broke that record, there was only one African, and he was Nigerian, George Ogbede. But he finished last in that of the 13 qualifiers in that long jump final, and he was 1.17 meters behind Powell's jump. Is that showing how far behind the very, very best African long jumping is?
okay. Yes, well, yes, it is. But you have to remember again, that Africa has not really produced some of the best long jumpers. In fact, it's in this generation that we are actually seeing, great jumpers coming from South Africa. We've had about 3 or 2 or 3 athletes. I remember watching Mokoena, from South Africa, who really transformed the long jump in Africa. Then followed by his own boy, Luvo Manyungo, who also has been jumping extremely well, in the range of 8 meter 60, 8 meter 50, and he really also tried to push the record further for Africa. And I believe he is the one who holds the record in Africa. So in other words, if you go back in the history of long jump in Africa, Africans have not done so well in the technical events. No, that one is more like a very technical event, particularly field events, a technical field event. The Africans have not done very well in the long jump. And if you look at the records, it's not something that you can actually look at and say, well, Africa is doing well. No, it's just this generation, starting from the South African athletes, like I said, Mokoena. I think that's the one that came up with really a big bang in long jump. And then we started saying, wow, so South Africa is producing some great long jumpers. And as you can see, it has continued from Mokoena, and it is now in this generation where Luvo Manyungo also has even set long jump record. So maybe it's just the beginning. Look at what's happening to Zango in the triple jump, which has never been heard of in Africa. For African athletes jumping so well in the triple jump. But now they are. Look at Zango was doing extremely well. Who knows? They may push the button even further. But we are yet to see what Africans can do in the long jump.
I was checking the national records earlier today, and I noticed the African record, as you mentioned, is held by Manyango at 8 meters 65. But not a single Zambian has actually leapt over 8 meters. What is the Zambian record, and how far away are we from seeing a Zambian jump over 8 meters?
You see, Zambia has not done very well in the field of in the field events, and the last record that I can remember in the long jump was actually 7 meters and 69, which is really, not what you would like to hear, looking at the way athletes are jumping today. Now, you can't blame the athletes, but I think as Zambians, we have not done so much to develop the long jump, both in schools and at the club level. And I believe that's why, if you notice, I've taken up the challenge, and one of the reasons is that I would really love to see and prove to the Zambians that we just can't sprint, just can't do the hurdles, but we can also take on the field events. Field events is one area we have completely neglected in this country. So that's why, the fact is, yes, we can have Zambians who can jump, but how much have we invested in the long jump, in the triple jump? How much are we willing to train the athletes to ensure that they push the records where we would like to see in today's long jump? And that's why, if you notice that, first of all, of course, we do like qualified coaches to really coach the long jumpers. We also like the exposure that the athletes need to do extremely well. So, but the good news is that the opportunity is there. It can be created to ensure that the athletes are given an opportunity to jump, to do the long jump, and hopefully talent can be identified, and seeing we can see the results, and the athletes doing what we know, or rather what we want them to be jumping in line with the world athletes, the athletes in the world.
You mentioned the Luvo, the South African record holder at the long jump. His record is 8 meters 65. It's almost a whole meter more than the Zambian record. How come the South Africans are able to put a credible challenge in long jumping in African terms, but Zambia is not?
Yes, and just one fact I can tell you is that actually for Luva Manyungo to jump 8 meters 65 speaks volume. They are good long jump coaches in South Africa. We don't have good long jumpers in Zambia, let alone qualified coaches who can train an athlete to jump anything 8 meters. We have not trained our athletes. We have not exposed them.
I understand you have a young athlete that you're training in the long jump. What do you think his potential is? Will he be the first Zambian to jump over 8 meters? And can he mount a credible challenge to, first, the Zambian record, secondly, 8 meters barrier, and thirdly, the African record itself? Is he good enough to do that?
I think, just like I said earlier, we lack the expertise, or rather the qualified coaches, to coach jumpers, despite the fact that we have the talent. The jumper that I'm training was identified during the inter-schools athletics competition. So I picked him up. Of course, we don't have long jump coaches in Zambia. So I picked him up, and I felt I can change this kid. I can change this athlete to be jumping where he has not jumped before. So when I got him, was jumping 6 meters 80, but you could see the boy had the ability. He had everything that every jumper would look for. So I said, no, I think I can push this athlete to start jumping 7 meters. And so far, just to cut the story short, he's jumping 7 meters and 27. That's his best time so far. So he is at 7 meters and 27, and he's only 16 years old. But I don't want to push him. I basically what I want to do is to develop his speed first. And so far, he's got very good speed. He's running about 11, 11. I'm sorry, he's running about 11, 10:99 seconds. But I need to push the time down to as fast as we can in order for him to jump good. So far, at his age, him jumping 7:27, I think we are on the right course. Just need to be careful not to push him, not to hurry him, but to make sure that we develop the athlete. What I mean by developing is to ensure that we take every step with caution so that he is not so that we don't overdo it or underdo it. But right where he's, because what he's doing now is what I anticipated. So far, so good.
You mentioned that you don't have the type of coaching that you would like to see for an athlete of his ability. What do you plan to do about that? You have a lot of contacts within world athletics. A lot of them you've known and competed against. Have you asked them? Do you have a long jump coach who I could ask to take a look at my young athlete and hopefully develop him?
No, not yet. The good news is that the boy also has potential to get a scholarship, and I think what we need at the moment is to, because he is in school. Remember that he's going to school. He's in grade 10, so he just passed to go to grade 10. He's got 2 more years before he completes high school. So we have to take that in. We have to be careful so that we have to make sure that he's going to school and he finish school, and alongside with that we can continue to develop him. The boy is only 16 years, and by the time he's 18, we should be able to achieve some of what I think he can do. He can be jumping close to 8 meters, hopefully 7 meters, 90, 7 meters, 80, 8 meters, somewhere there, 8 meters low, 8 meters, because we are not going to start looking for a coach now because he's still very young. He needs to be under my guidance so that we ensure that he finishes first.
How long do you think it is going to take before we can expect to see him making an assault on long jumping records, first in Zambia and then on a wider scale?
Well, I think it all depends on how quick he's assimilating and the body is adjusting to what I'm teaching him. But all in all, God willing, I'm sure by the time he's 18, 19, in the next 2 to 3 years, we should see some significant change, in his jumping and distance that he will be jumping. So we are basically looking at it.
Today is the 30th anniversary of Mike Powell breaking the world record and winning the world championship. When do you think we will see the first 9-meter long jump? Sorry, did you catch that? Question again. Today is the 30th anniversary of Mike Powell breaking Bob Beeman's world record with 8 meters 95. I don't know if you were aware of this, but a year later, at altitude and with a bit of wind assistance, he jumped 8 meters 99. When do you think the first 9-meter jump is going to happen?
It will happen. It will happen. It's just a matter of time. But we are not going to say it will just happen like that. So there are a number of factors to consider here. You know, athletes come and go. Records are meant to be broken. So we don't know when that will happen, but we will sure one day cross the 9 meters. You know, there are a lot of miracles, rather, records that happen. I mean, you can imagine such something that you may even wonder yourself. You can imagine if the world record in the 400-meter hurdles can be broken twice and pushed further where no man has ever thought of, what will stop the long jump record to be pushed further where no one can reach it? So it is just a matter of time. We just don't know when the generation will come and push it further. It is very possible to jump 9 meters, and I believe that can be achieved. It's just a matter of time. But it's not just gonna happen like that. Just like I said, there will be enough factors, generations to come, change in technology, change in this. You just never know. You look at what happened in Japan. The new shoes that Nike has invented, the track that they made in Japan. All those are factors that can contribute to breaking the 9-meter barrier. Yes, it is possible. And the thing is, you and I are here talking. Somebody or scientist is busy trying to manufacture. How can I make these guys run fast? That's how the world is. So you just never know. It's just a matter of time. We don't know when, but I know that technology, the way the world is moving, it's gonna be broken, and we will see like in the years to come.
Okay, Samuel Matete, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Satisha.